So what do we get? So this is a common scenario. I'm putting it as a case, but a 52-year-old female, right hand dominant, falls on a right outstretched hand, has a significant pain and deformity. It's this fracture. This is what we get. So what happens? This is what we are thinking. Oh, it's a distal radius fracture, it's intra-articular, it's complex. I need a CT scan. It will require surgery. I'll have to fix it with a plate. I will find out which plate will work. And then I don't know how the patient's going to pay for this. In all this, we forget a little thing on the side, looks like a lost cause at some times. And I don't know how many of you actually looked at all the presentations that happened, looked at the ulnar styloid. Everybody was just focused on the distal radius, distal radius, distal radius. So to a degree, ulnar styloid happens to be the lost cause. So what happens? So what is the aim of my talk? The aim of my talk is to make you see the small bone in the wrist and a small fragment at the end of that small bone in the wrist. If I can succeed in that, that is good enough. So I want you to see the distal radial ulnar joint, and I want to see the ulnar styloid. So what is a distal radial ulnar joint? So a distal radial ulnar joint is an inherently unstable construct which includes a sigmoid notch and an ulnar head. It is a shallow notch. It has a volar rim and it has a dorsal rim. So that is the only thing that we have as far as the bone is concerned to hold that distal radial ulnar joint. So then if we have so little bone, God must be kind to us and has given us tons of ligaments around it. So we have to hold things together. So what holds it together? We have TFCC. What is TFCC? It is a construct of multiple ligaments woven together to give you a stable distal radial ulnar joint. What does it have? It has the two strongest part, which is the radio ulnar ligaments, which are the dorsals and the volar superficials and the deeps that hold your ulnar head. You have the articular disc, the meniscal homologue, and you have two secondary stabilizers, which is the ECU substrate and the ulnocarpal ligament. So why is it important? Distal radial ulnar joint in a distal radius fracture. Facts: 60% of associated DRUJ injuries in distal radius fractures, of which 30% complain of 30% will be problematic in terms of secondary healing. So once they're healed, they may have still got a degree of instability. Of that 30%, 10% actually will be symptomatic. So we are looking at a very small proportion of people who actually come across, despite being a large proportion that has the problem. What do they come across with? Ulnar-sided pain and restricted range of movement. What is the injury pattern that they normally get? They may get a bony injury, they may get a soft tissue injury, or they may get a combined of both. So what should we be doing? We should be finding their clinical relevance and not focusing only on the distal radius. And we should be finding ways of identifying them and treating them if required. So what is their clinical relevance? So the clinical relevance in a distal radius fracture is radial translation. So we're looking at radial translation. If there is a radial translation, we are worried about the distal radial ulnar joint. If there is loss of radial inclination, we are worried about the distal radial ulnar joint. If there is volar or dorsal inclination more than 10 degrees, we should be worried about the distal radial ulnar joint. If there is a coronal shift, which means the radius is moved away from the ulnar head, so your incongruence is at the distal radial ulnar joint, then we should look at how much. And if the distal oblique interosseous ligament, which is the last case that I think Patankar sir showed, where there was an elbow dislocation with. So that essentially was an SX Lopresti kind of a lesion. So the distal oblique interosseous ligament injury, we should be looking at those. What is the importance of this clinical relevance? So we look at the intra-articular extension of the fractures. Is it going into the sigmoid notch, which happens in about 55% of cases? If there's a 2 millimeter step, if there is a volar or dorsal rim fractures, which Pankaj showed. So we should be looking at those, and we should be thinking, let me have a look at distal radiology whilst I am treating the distal radius fracture. If there is an ulnar styloid fracture, which happens in 50% of the cases, where is that fracture? Is it basi styloid? If it is basi styloid, we know that the foveal injury has happened. We know that a TFCC is probably not functioning. And if there is a displacement. And obviously, if there is a TFCC tear. If there's a TFCC tear, I think we know it is a peripheral tear. We know it is involvement of the fovea, and we know it needs, at some point, if it falls in the 10%, will require treatment. So how do we identify them? So we can identify them pre-op. With an X-ray or a CT, whilst we focus ourselves on the distal radius, we take 2 extra minutes and focus ourselves on the distal radioulnar joint as well. What do we look for? We look for variance. If there is variance of more than 6 millimeters on an X-ray or on a CT, you should be thinking of distal radioulnar joint. If there is a relative dislocation, so if there's a relative dislocation or subluxation, which I think one of the starting cases was shown, that again Dr. Patanga said he then pinned the distal radioulnar joint, he pinned the distal ulnar. And if there is a DRUJ widening. So if you see all these 3 on the X-ray, then we need to identify it. How do we do it intra-op? It's simple. We do, after we have fixed our radius anatomically, we then check for the distal radioulnar joint. So we do a manual shuck test. We look for restricted range of movements, and we look for the radiological features as described above. So we do all that, and then we can say, okay, do we need to treat this? Do we not need to treat this? With TFCC tears, it's a little tricky because the ulnar styloid, especially when you come with diapunch fragments and you come with depressed fractures, the ulnar styloid will be intact. In which case, you might be worried about a TFCC tear. And the only way to identify this is an MRI scan or an arthroscopy. So should styloid fracture be fixed? Which is the question that everybody wants to answer. And I don't think even literature answers that. So this is a paper from JBJS 2010 that says, if you do a good stable fixation of your distal radius, the outcome is insignificant. The risk function will be proper. Okay? This is from India, 2023 in injury, that again says that you treat it conservatively or you treat it with fixation as long as you have corrected the Lafontaine's criteria or you've paid attention to the distal radius, your ulnar styloid will not give you a big problem. They may go into a non-union. So then do we have a treatment algorithm? So with everything we do, at the end of the surgery, when it is 2 hours, we need to not be thinking. We need to be working at a spinal level. So treatment algorithm is very simple. You fix the distal radius. You look at the distal radioulnar joint. Is it stable? Is it unstable? If it is it unstable all throughout? Or is it unstable in a particular motion? If it is unstable in a particular motion, put a plaster, put a couple of wires, get out. If it is unstable in the full global movement, then you need to do something. You need to either fix the styloid or you need to come back for a TFCC later on. Whichever it is, you have to counsel your patient or at the same time. What are the methods? We've seen a lot of methods from the senior colleagues here. This is an isolated ulnar styloid. You can do a tension band. You can just do wires. You can do a compression screw, or you can do a plate. Irrespective, it doesn't matter. The question is, it should heal, it should be stable. So in summary, concomitant distal radioulnar joint injuries are common. Failure to address can lead to DRUJ instability. High index of suspicion is required. Radiographic and CT assessment of the joint is important. Distal radius fracture must be anatomically fixed if you're seeing factors that the distal radioulnar joint is incongruent or can result into instability. Persistent isolated instability, immobilize them or treat them with a wire, the ulnoradial wire. If it is global, then you have to think of fixing the styloid.
Thank you, Gautam.